It's a rematch of last season quarterfinal at Stadium East. Free-falling Maroons head to the North Coast, and Treasure Beach is feeling green thanks to their new chairman. All this and more on this Match Week 8 review show. Yeah, people, welcome back to Jump Hill Fun. Football doesn't feel too fun right now thanks to the Reggae Boys, so thank God we got some JPL action this weekend to act as a perfect distraction. And we will begin with two teams that always have close battles. Cavalier versus Portmore United. Cavalier got over their Caribbean Cup blues with a much needed win away to Tivoli last week. There, you could see this rebuilding team starting to form their own identity, but they are still far from the finished article. And speaking of finishing, Cavalier's attack remains hot and cold, with new boys Denzel McKenzie and Daryl Massicott being incorporated slowly, and main striker Shaquille Stein still searching for his shooting boots. But at least the defense looks to be coming along, especially after adding the final piece to their defensive puzzle in new goalkeeper Delmalcia Fer. But if you look up defense in the dictionary, you will find Rudolph Austin and Portmore United next to it. The Sun City boys shut out their sixth opponent last weekend, and if they continue like this, they might as well start playing matches with only one goal at the opposite end of the field. However, and I'm sorry if I'm beginning to sound like a broken record, but their attack still lacks the firepower. It's great that they are shutting people out, but they themselves has been held goalless in their last two matches. To make things more difficult, the club recently released creative winger Cardell Bembo, who has been one of their best attackers since joining the club last season. Now, these two met 5 times last season, and Cavalier avoided defeat in all of those encounters. So let's see if they keep the streak going when Cavalier hosts Portmore United 5:30 this Sunday. Molynes United versus Montego United. Molynes United are undefeated in their last 3 matches, which sounds great on paper, but in the end, they only took home 3 points out of a possible 9. The Kingston-based club has been stuck in the relegation zone for some weeks now, still seeking their first victory of the season after 7 matches. Goal scoring had been the issue, but with Wisdom Ubani, their new Nigerian striker, off the bat last week, maybe that problem is finally solved. But I believe their defense will be the ones in the spotlight this weekend when league leaders Montego United comes to town. The team from the second city has been in immaculate form, which was fully evident in how much they dominated away to Chapelton last week. They will be missing starting centre-back Josiah Triminum due to international duty, but the rest of the squad should be available. As for recent encounters, Mobe won all 3 meetings last season by a combined score of 11-0. So Molynes will have their work cut out for them when they take on Montego United later today at Stadium East. Mount Pleasant versus Chapelton Maroons. As I just stated, the Maroons lost to Mobe last weekend, a result that saw them only collecting a single point from the last 4 games. Management isn't panicking just yet, and yes, it's a long season, but they will need to find back form sooner rather than later to keep pace with the top 6. Their main issue as of late, the goals have dried up after only scoring 1 goal during that 4-game run. Their opponents this weekend, Mount Pleasant, aren't exactly in sparkling form either, well, not at least to their usual standards. The Caribbean Cup has proven to be a bigger distraction than initially thought, and despite having such a large squad, the continued rotations have left their play in a state of inconsistency. Once more, they will be without 2 key players for this match, as starting goalkeeper Tafari Chambers and midfielder Joshan Anglin are both away with the national team. As for the recent head-to-head between these two teams, Mount Pleasant won 2 and drew 1 against the Maroons last season. Let's see if the Maroons can get revenge when Mount Pleasant hosts Chapelton Maroons 3 p.m. this Sunday. Tivoli Gardens versus Harbour. Something happened to Tivoli that hasn't happened in quite some time, and that's a home defeat at the Edward Seaga Sports Complex. They return home this weekend looking for a quick bounce back, and they will have the star player Nicola Fuller finally available to start this match. They will, however, be without starting centre-back Janai Williams, who was suspended after picking up a red card last weekend. That's music to the ears of Harbour, who are this weekend visitors and will be looking to continue their steady climb up the table after their rocket start. They have the likes of Trayvon Reed and Rowan Brown to thank for their recent turnaround, but their new goalkeeper, Garwin Davis, has been pretty solid at the back. and he will need to be, as all three of these two team matches last season were high scoring affairs, with Tivoli coming out on top with 2 wins and a draw. So this one should be a fun one when Tivoli Gardens host Harbour later today. Racing United vs Spanish Town Police FC. Police FC finally scored multiple goals in a match last time out during a dazzling display in the first half against Molynes, but they're still seeking their first win of the season when they allowed Molynes to come back and steal a point in the second half of that match. Some people believe they are defending in that second half is a bit naive, but it must be clear by now this team is all or nothing and doesn't fancy the idea of parking a bus. Ironically enough, a tactic like that might work this time around, as this weekend's opponent, Racing United, despite being one of the highest goal scorers in the league currently, have not scored in their last 3 games. No word if attacking winger Tajay Grant will be returning from injury, so I'm sure they will look to talisman Mikael Ellis for some offensive magic. We will see if they manage to score when Racing United host Spanish Town Police FC later this afternoon. Treasure Beach vs Waterhouse. Firehouse ended a lengthy spell of home games with a great performance against Mount Pleasant, but they did not come away with full points. But now it's time to test their mettle on the road, as this upcoming match in St. Elizabeth will be their first outside Kingston this season. But at least they will have the impressive Kenley Deacon along with them, what's been the talk of the town after his great performances in recent weeks. But they will be taking on a very confident Treasure Beach team who should be absolutely buzzing after their big victory over the Junglers last week. Their starters have done a fine job for head coach Kemar Ricketts, but that last match was further proof that they have decent depth off the bench. Also, the defense did extremely well in getting a clean sheet, which they have been struggling to do so far this season, and they will be tested again to keep this high-power Waterhouse attack shackled during this match. As for their most recent meeting, Waterhouse came away from St. Elizabeth with all 3 points last time around with a 4-2 victory in March of last year. They will be aiming to do the same again when Treasure Beach FC hosts Waterhouse FC this afternoon at 3 p.m. Dunbeholden vs Arnett Gardens. The Junglers were left stunned after their 1-0 loss to Treasure Beach and will be hoping to shake it off quickly and get back on track when they travel to Dunbeholden. Coach Philip Williams' side didn't exactly play poorly, but had a hard time coordinating their attacks without their main striker Fabian Reed. No word if he will be back, and with fellow unformed striker Roderick Granville possibly being out due to his head injury from last week, all the goal scoring pressure will once again fall on Rishiki Kelson. As for Dunbeholden, they actually haven't played much games at their home patch this season, and last time they did, they actually lost that match. Dunbeholden's home field advantage at their sports complex is well documented at this point, and head coach Damian Gordon will be hoping it will be enough to get them back to winning ways when they host the Junglers this afternoon. But as proven last season, the Junglers actually has a decent record on that small pitch, and in fact, they haven't lost to Dunbeholden since 2023. Let's see if the home team breaks that spell when Dunbeholden hosts Arnett Gardens this Sunday. So that's a massive gauntlet of games happening later today, but before my predictions, here's a quick look at some local news. There's a new man in charge of Treasure Beach, as the club has appointed South St. Elizabeth Member of Parliament Floyd Green as the new chairman of the club. Green, the current Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, fills the void left after the resignation of former chairman Jason Henzel in August. Minister Green's leadership, vision and dedication community development will be instrumental in guiding the club to even greater heights, both on and off the field. That's according to a statement from the Treasure Beach Club. There was also a leadership change at the former Premier League team Molynes FC. They appointed Christopher Jackson as the club's new president. Jackson is a former Glenmore High School DeCosta Cup player who also represented the University of West Indies in the Jamaican Premier League. He is a banker by profession and holds a bachelor degree in economics and accounting, as well as a master's in business management and marketing. The appointment comes as the club continued their preparation for the upcoming Jamaican Championship Tier 2 season. Anyway, that's it for the news. Now on to the predictions. Cavalier vs Portmore, I'm telling you right now, this is going to be low scoring. In fact, I actually believe this is going to be a dull 0-0. Molynes versus Montego United. Now this I expect goals in, but Mobe should dominate with a 3-1 victory. Mount Pleasant versus Chapelton, another game I expect to have a lots of goals, but I think Mount Pleasant should come away with a 2-1 victory. Tivoli versus Harbour, they have a trend of high scoring, but I feel this time it's going to be a bit even and see Tivoli join 1-1 with Harbour. Racing versus Spanish Town Police, I think this is going to be an open game, but I think Racing will finally get back to winning ways and goal scoring and win this game 2-0. Treasure Beach taking on Waterhouse. Waterhouse making the long trip to Treasure Beach, but Treasure Beach are on good form. This I see being a high scoring 2-2 draw. And finally, Dunbeholden taking on Arnett. This one is a tricky one. It depends if Fabian Reed is playing, but this one might also turn out to be a tame 1-1 draw between the two teams. Alright guys, that is match week 8. Thank you all for waiting a bit on this preview show. Because of the Reggae Boys, it was a bit delayed. But anyway, I have lots of action to look forward to later today. Also, please like, subscribe and share as we look to keep you all up to date on everything on the JPL leading up to the final in May. Otherwise, with great JPL content, you're already at the right place, Jamaica Fan. YouTube, big up yourself.